Hello and welcome to the Game Changer series of interviews for Global Entrepreneurship Week in association with Business Crowd. I'm very pleased to be interviewing today Nathan Ott of GC Index, who is going to talk to us about how the GC Index developed and how it can support growing businesses in identifying different talents within the team. Welcome, Nathan.
Hello, Laura.
So, tell us a little bit about your insights and your journey into identifying this rare breed called Game Changers and what that led to.
Yeah, sure. So, firstly, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Today is a very interesting topic, this one of game changers, and plays very well into the world of entrepreneurs. It started with us working with organisations that were looking for individuals that could make a transformative change, really. They could change a landscape, be that an organisation, a process, a project. And when we were looking at traditional talent models to try and identify these individuals, we found they didn't really exist. So that's why we set out to find our own.
This is what most businesses at the moment, a lot of the talk in business is about innovation, it is about disruption, and this is almost the kind of holy grail of what businesses are looking for, is the individuals who are going to bring the ideas that's going to give them market differentiation and the leading edge.
Yeah, absolutely right. So for us, certainly there is this myth of the hero innovator. That became very apparent into our studies into these game changers. So very early early concepts for us were, could we find these individuals, whether they were a CEO of a Fortune or FTSE organization or a child in a developing country, if they had this special something, they had this special something, and they didn't have to be Steve Jobs or Bezos or Oprah Winfrey. We believe they exist at every level and every walk of life, and we proved that. I mean, these individuals, we called them game changers, but very quickly the next stage was to realize that actually not everyone is a game changer, but everyone can make a game-changing contribution. And that's how the GC Index developed. It developed into this measure of impact, of organizational impact, impact on society that individuals can have, whether they are a game changer or one of the other four roles that we have with the index.
So tell us a little bit about the other four roles, because this is really important in bringing together teams, particularly in the early days of a business when it's growing and beginning to gain momentum.
Yeah, so we firstly, the GC Index through the research is underpinned by two main elements, and that's imagination and obsession. And through that and through our work, we've looking at those two elements and how they work together, we've developed this measure of proclivity, so where people want it. And what you find is that individuals want to make an impact in three main ways. They want to make an impact through task, getting things done, or getting things done well. So the role, the implementer, is very much about getting tasks done, bringing energy, making things happen, just getting on with it and getting stuff done. That's how they want to make an impact. And then we have the polisher that wants to make an impact through raising standards, through quality, innovation actually, making things continuously better, but very task focused, the pair of those. So you have the implementer and you have the polisher. We have individuals that want to make an impact through ideas. So that will be the game changer. That's radical ideas, that's imagination, creativity, looking at things differently, looking at things that can be done differently, but often not being able to take people with them because people don't quite understand them. So if you look at the other sort of role, the strategist is very much about making ideas make sense, actually, and that's how these people want to make a contribution, through ideas, be they radical, or through ideas in sense making sense of ideas. Yeah, the strategist. The fifth role is individuals that don't necessarily get drawn into excessively into tasks or ideas, but generally want to make a contribution through people. That's not about being socially skilled or good with people. It is fundamentally having a genuine philosophy that if we get the relationships right, will follow. And so if you use that framework, it's radical ideas, let's make sense of them, let's make them happen, let's make them brilliant or as best they can be, and let's all work well together. That's the framework that we have, and that's what's empowering entrepreneurial organizations to really make their ideas a reality through the people they have.
And we do need all of those roles at different stages or different evolutions within a project or within a business growth plan. Each of those roles can come to the fore at different stages or even collaborate together. What's the big shift that you see in organizations when they take and use the tool in terms of the insights and communication that allows their employees to get with each other?
Yeah, it's a framework that allows people to understand very quickly how someone wants to make an impact. Okay, so I use a very simple football team analogy. If we look at the tools that are out there, and historically the tools that we've used to help us understand our colleagues, our staff better, they're always focused on really on personality or on certain behaviors or emotions. Now, if I look at a very basic sports team, let's take a football team, you look for a striker to score goals. That's their impact. Okay, so we know that's their impact. We look for a defender to defend goals, or a playmaker in the middle to create play. Whatever it might be, that's their role. That's how they make an impact, and that's what they're there to do. And it doesn't matter if the striker is a 6'4" white woman or 5'5" black woman. She's there to score goals, and that's how she makes an impact. The GC index does that. It enables us to see how people want to make an impact very quickly. And if you use the traditional storming, norming, performing teams, it's really at that storming and norming part where the GC index has the most power, because we're not talking about sort of how people are feeling or necessarily how or certain sorts of their behavioural types. We're actually looking at how they want to get things done. And again, is that through ideas, tasks, or people?
And that is what's nice about it, is it goes very quickly into very practical language to help people execute on that. So obviously it's something that you've been developing over the last 3 years, and now it's out there, it's being used. Tell us a little bit about that process from the idea through to the implementation and taking the product out to market.
Well, firstly, we just started this in 2014 because our clients, the clients requested that we found a different way of looking at people, really. The clients had all the sophistication of whether it's psychometric tools or capability frameworks, attribute frameworks, and they didn't quite fit what they were looking for. So that's why we set on this journey. What we have today is quite crudely a 55-item question set, which in 5 minutes gives individuals a very simple way of understanding how they want to make an impact and what type of leader or what type of entrepreneur or what type of manager or in fact just employee they are, and how they want to make an impact in that role. It's moved very quickly into this view of multi-dimensional leadership. So again, going against the thinking of there's no such thing as a perfect, going very much against the thinking of the perfect leader. So there's no such thing as a perfect leader. There's no such thing as a perfect entrepreneur. as well. So we all think that all entrepreneurs are the same. They're not. They're all different. So if you look in our framework, say somebody like Elon Musk, very entrepreneur, but he'll be more of a game changer strategist in our view. So, someone has the radical thinking, very, very creative, very imaginative, but extremely strategic with it. Makes it very simple for everybody to understand. If you look at, say, Steve Jobs, would have been in our world a game changer polisher. Again, radical thoughts, radical ideas, but extremely demanding about making those. Right through to our very own Richard Branson. Sorry, conscious these are all men actually. Sorry about that. But the sorry, I'm sure you can throw in some other examples. And but for me, that Richard Branson will be, say again, radical thought, but charismatic with it. So we would say more of a game changer playmaker, for example. So it's helping organizations then to now understand what sort of people they've got. It's helping people realize that it's not just about the hero innovator or the hero entrepreneur. There's a multi-dimensional view of entrepreneurship, multi-dimensional view of leadership, and of course diversity as well.
And that actually underpins, that diversity and inclusion side does very much underpin as well, I think, the way that the business is evolving and how the partnership model is working with the people that you're bringing on board as advocates for the GC Index.
Yeah, I mean, we had a very entrepreneurial bank. It's an online bank, and we did their board not so long ago, and there were 10 on there, and we have 10 combinations of impact, or leadership combinations, and in a board of 10 they covered 9 of them actually, so 9 different sort of leadership or impact types, which is extremely diverse, extremely. So it's very much looking at people about what they can bring, what impact they're going to make, rather than some of the very stereotypical boxes we want to sort of put people in. And so it's looking at people about how they're going to make an impact rather than what they look like. Yeah.
And what was interesting, I think, with that case study, you'd also said that those individuals, that board was already formed, it was self-selected.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It really is amazing. And it made sense to them. It was so diverse, the way they thought, the way they acted, the way they all took on certain roles, and it was self-selected. And Laura, you find this. You know when you work well with somebody, it's almost how to get the best out of them. You know where you complement because you've worked with each other for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and you know that. I think all we're doing is sort of putting some rigor around that when you take it into new teams or broader teams. That's what the index does. So I'm sure you've got colleagues that you've worked very well with, and you're different, but you've had a very strong complementary relationships with them, and maybe not been able to put your finger on it. So it's really having that framework to help that. Your GC Index does.
Yeah, I think it's there as a communications tool. It's there as a tool to open dialogue and create conversations where people can explore those differences and maybe take a different view as to how they can work together to add value in a business context. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and it's about making, fundamentally, we've been talking about innovation and all these good things for years, but all innovation is about making ideas a reality.
Impact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And how quickly can we make that idea a reality, and everyone plays their role in that. And we're moving it now. We've got a junior version, so it's the young people's version of the GC Index, because this is the extent that we can show young people how they can make an impact, rather than just getting the right grades and the right subjects at the right time. It goes a lot more beyond that as well. So we're finding that very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I think that is really important, particularly when you're working perhaps in places where there's challenging backgrounds. And I really do strongly believe that the next thing on the agenda, whilst we're seeing the shifts in gender, we're seeing further standards coming out on diversity and inclusion, the next big direction where things will be looking at will be social mobility.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's again, back to the original premise, whether you're a CEO or a child in a developing country, you can make an impact. Everybody can contribute. And I think what we're trying to do is give a framework that organisations, some society, schools feel comfortable and in actually making that leap, because at times of risk or change, we do sort of, a lot of people do feel their unconscious biases are almost their safety blankets in some ways, and when they have to make certain decisions. So what we're doing with the GC index is a different way of looking at how someone's going to contribute, and therefore feel safe in making some of those decisions, which ordinarily we wouldn't have made. Yeah.
That's a really positive impact. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with us, Nathan. And where can people go if they want to find out a little bit more about the GC Index and how that can work for them in their organisation?
Yeah, simply thegcindex.com, and we sort of deliver the GC Index through our very extensive partner network around the world. They're called GCologists, and they practice that art of GCology. So we're trying to get 21st century with how we treat talent. But a good starting point would either be thegcindex.com, or if you're really interested about these individuals called game changers, then go to gamechangerhub.com. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks very much.